Welcome back. I'm Dr. Cheek and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and today is another installment of We Need to Talk. And what we need to talk about today is most of us, when we go on this healing journey, sometimes we make the miscalculation that our family has gone on this journey with us. You made the choice to start down this path of this healing journey. Your family did not. So we need to talk about how do we start to engage or connect with our families, or stay engaged and connected with our families when the dynamics of the relationship change, when our internal dynamics change, and maybe our interactions with them change. That's what we need to talk about today. And caveat to this discussion, I am talking about most of us when we have somewhat of maybe a dysfunctional family, where we may have a culture of either avoiding mental health concerns, or feeling like mental health is not a real thing that you need to address, or using religion or other means to kind of ignore what you're experiencing, what you are feeling or dealing with on a daily basis. This video is not for individuals who are dealing with family members who are abusive in any way. And when I say abusive, I mean emotionally abusive, psychologically abusive, physical or sexually abusive. This video is not for you. This is for individuals who have a challenging relationship with their family, but it's one that's built on understanding, and they can get to an understanding together. But when you're dealing with abuse in a family relationship, it will likely be helpful for you to get some additional assistance, some individual one-on-one engagement with someone who is a trained professional to help you navigate that experience, to help you navigate those family dynamics. Now, that might end up with you disconnecting from some family members. That might look like you setting firm boundaries about your interactions with certain family members. That might look like a whole host of things. In most cases, when there is abuse, there needs to be a different level of intervention, and that's not what I'm focusing on today. So if that's your situation, I do encourage you to seek individual treatment to address your own individual needs. So with that being said, what I mean by family, I mean our immediate family. So that could be parents, that could be spouses, that could be children, siblings, and sometimes our extended family. When we're talking about extended family, that could mean your grandparents, your in-laws, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, your friends, those individual dynamics or individual relationships that you have. Now, what you may run into, like if you're taking this healing journey and you're trying to engage and interact with your family, some of the things you may run into is maybe some resistance to your change. You may run into disbelief that the changes you've made are authentic to who you are, as opposed to someone guiding you in this direction, or you are following the lead of someone else. You may run into family members who are confused by the process, who don't understand or know how to navigate this new dynamic with you, who want to understand where you're coming from, but struggle to understand it. You may run into some cultural differences. In certain cultures, mental health is not something that's talked about. Seeking therapy for mental health is not something that's talked about. You may grow up in a culture or in an environment where even if you have things that you need to deal with, that's not dealt with outside of your home. So there may be some challenges that you run into when you start going down this healing journey and addressing any mental health when it comes to reconnecting and staying connected and re-engaging with your family. So my advice to you is this. First things first, most of us, when we start this healing journey, it typically starts around 30, in your mid 30s. Some people, it starts in our 20s, but most of the time, even in our 20s, when we're actively doing therapy, we're actively trying to change, there are still some things that aren't quite clicking. When we truly, most of the time, get into that change process, it is typically in our 30s when we are more able to accept that there are things that we need to change, and we're more willing to engage in those changes. There are people who are able to do that in their 20s, but most of the time it's around the age of 30 when most of those significant changes happen. And I say that to say this: you have to keep in mind when you're dealing with your family, the person that they've known for 20 or 30 years is changing in front of them. Not everyone does well with change. Not everyone is receptive to change. So when you are changing and maybe they don't understand it, maybe they don't want to understand it, it may take some time for them to adjust to all of these changes that you're making with yourself that now changes the relationships or the dynamics with them. And you also have to keep in mind the difficulty and the struggle that you may have had to actually go through this transition yourself. It takes a lot of concerted effort, thoughts, and just a lot of practice to go go into changing your thought process, changing how you engage with your environment, changing how you engage with the people in your environment. Just imagine how difficult that transition was for you, and you were living that transition. Now imagine someone trying to understand that transition from the outside looking in. They, in those moments, may need additional time to adjust to those changes that they're seeing in you and the way it may affect how you engage with them moving forward. So there are a lot of aspects about us when we go on this healing journey that may change, that our family members may not be prepared for because they're used to us being a certain way. Now, are there a subset of family members who are used to you operating in a healthy way? So maybe you are the person that's always in need, or you are always the person that they have to fix something for, or you are always the person that they can count on all the time. And those things are changing as you go through the healing process. You're no longer in need of their guidance or their input as frequently, or you're not always there to help. You've learned how to say no. You learn how to make time for you as well as to continue to be there for others the way you need to. But sometimes that requires for you to say no, and they're not used to you saying no. So please understand that it's going to take time, the same amount of time, or maybe more or maybe less, for them to adjust to the changes in who you are as a person, the same way it took some time for you to adjust to the changes that's happening inside of you as a result of going through this healing process. Now, too, along with time, we may have to actually help them along the way so they can understand the change in dynamics within you, so they can know what's expected of them, they can know what you're looking for, they can know what you need and what you want from a relationship with them. Sometimes it's simply the case that we have to verbalize the changes that have been made. And simple example for myself is, before I went to graduate school, I used to watch TV nonstop. I am a TV person, I'm a movie person, I watch a lot of different shows and all of those things. Now, when I started graduate school, I neither had the money nor the time to watch a lot of TV or anything else. Let me be clear, I had a whole antenna in the window so I can get the local channels. I just wanted to watch the news. So please understand that, yeah, I didn't watch a lot of TV in graduate school, and that kind of shaped how I looked at TV when I got out of graduate school. And some of my family members had a hard time adjusting to me not engaging the same way in a social setting, like me not wanting to watch certain things, me not being very active about what I'm watching on TV, me passively letting whatever on TV become the background noise. Now, in this case, that's just a simple example of changes that happen that family members struggle to kind of understand and come to terms with. Now, when we make major life changes as far as our behaviors or our interactions with them, again, we may need to verbalize more than once what that looks like in the relationship dynamic or with the two of you now. That may require that you help them understand the changes you've made, help them understand the way that the changes affect you and the way that it may affect them, or if it affects them in any way. And lastly, what we need to understand as it relates to going through this healing process and dealing with family dynamics is understanding that there may require some level of acceptance of the fact that not all of your family members are going to be on board with the changes. They're not going to be accepting of the changes that you're going through. They're going to always resist your engagement or how you're trying to interact with them now. They'll say things like, you've changed and you ain't who you used to be. I don't know this version of you. I don't know who you are now. All these things to kind of make you feel like the things that you've done to make improvements in your life has somehow negatively influenced your life. But what we need to understand is that not everybody is receptive to change. And we have to accept that not everybody is going to be okay with those changing dynamics. And what that means is you have to now determine, how do you want to engage with that particular family member or those particular family members? Does that look like you maybe limiting your interactions with them because every interaction feels like a challenge? It feels like pulling teeth. Does that mean you only interact with them around specific things like family gatherings or when you're talking about things that you both have a shared common interest in? Does that mean like you maybe not have a relationship with this family member moving forward? What does that new engagement with this family member look like? And it doesn't always have to be you cutting people off. We have the ability to accept that people are going to be exactly who they are. And that doesn't require that we cut off everyone, or we're not accepting of who people are themselves in the search for having people accept who we are ourselves. So you're able to have a relationship with someone even if you all disagree on most things, but you just have to determine, what does that relationship look like for you moving forward? Do they have to be on board with what you see as your engagement with them? Not necessarily, because that engagement is your choice. You get to choose how you engage with people. And if they have a concern, that might open the dialogue. That actually might be helpful to open dialogue and have a conversation about what is happening in that relationship dynamic, and talk about what needs to change. That may be an outcome of being able to kind of set those firm boundaries for yourself to say, this is how I'm going to choose to engage with this family member, because this family member is very resistant to the person that I'm becoming, or the person I've become, because of this process I've gone through. And I generally don't like when people say, you've changed, or you're not the person you used to be. I hope for most of us, we are not the people that we used to be. Life is a continual growing process. If you at the age of 30 are the same type of person that you were at 15, I might have questions or concerns, because that might mean that there is limited growth happening. So I might have some concerns. Just gonna throw that out there. But the idea that you're not the same person that you used to be is not a bad thing. We grow, we change, we evolve, and that's okay. And the expectation is that everyone will grow and change and evolve with us, and that may not always be the case. And does that mean you kick rocks and leave them in the dust? No, that doesn't always mean that. That might mean that you have to now adjust the relationship engagement that you have with this person that may require less engagement with them. That's it. Now, the reason why we need to talk about this, the reason why I thought this would be something helpful to kind of talk about, is because every day we talk about mental health. That's the topic du jour. And we talk about it in terms of understanding that in order for you to be healthy and be mentally stable, there may require some changes, there may require some growth or evolution in the process of how you operate, how you see your world around you, and how you engage with your world around you. And when going through those changes, not everybody that we've always had in our lives are going to fully be on board when that first happens. And for those who aren't, they may need time, they may need understanding and clarification. And some of them, we may just need to accept that that relationship is going to be limited because they are resistant to understanding who you are and where you are at this point in your life. And that's okay as well. So, as always, take the time to jot down any thoughts, questions, or comments you have below. I hope you got something from this video today. I hope you learned something from this video today. As always, I thank you for taking the time to listen, and I'll be seeing you again very soon. Thank you.